Donald Trump is an incredibly polarizing character, and as he's running for president this year, I thought I would take a look at some of his more interesting moments. Because we've got to ask ourselves, is Donald Trump charismatic? Well, he has influence, he shows leadership qualities, and he can definitely get a crowd motivated and inspired to follow him to the end. Do those things take charisma? Well, in my opinion, they do. However, we're going to look at one of his latest speeches and see if we can analyse what charisma techniques he uses and if we can use the same techniques in our lives as well. Hello everyone, yes, we are over at the computer now, and we are going to be analysing Donald Trump's charisma from this recent speech. If I'm going to be honest with you, I have never seen this clip before, so I don't really know what to expect, to be honest with you. I think so far, what I would like to say is, when we are not speaking, we are constantly communicating to other people. Just because we're not talking doesn't mean we're not delivering a message. Where I'm going with this is that before I've even played this clip, I'm looking at Donald Trump and he is communicating to me. For example, he has got his famous red tie. In the past, red tie would always be associated with like a power or leader. Of course, here he has his like a Democratic Party where the color is red. He has his American flag on his little lapel there. He's really trying to get into the hearts of very patriotic Americans. And just looking at his face, he's got that really deep, long gaze, eye contact. His face is nice and relaxed. He looks like he's saying something that's important. And I had to draw attention to the bandage around his ear based on his sort of recent attempt on his life. Now, why did they do this? Why did they put the bandage on? They didn't really need the bandage there. But ultimately, what they're trying to do is they are trying to make Donald Trump appear to people's vulnerability. He's trying to come across as vulnerable. And because reason why that is when people are vulnerable, they are more appealing to other people. We like people who are vulnerable because it humanizes them. It makes them feel not so robotic. Politicians try to do this a lot when they are like going to visit a hospital or you see them playing sports. It's really tried to make them seem more appealing. So they're doing that very deliberately to try to use these sort of psychological techniques to get the audience on board with what he's saying. So that's my sort of first impressions of it so far. So let's have a look and see where he goes from here.
Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory.
Whoa. Okay, so right off the bat, he's really trying to get this emotional connection with the audience. What is the difference between communication and charisma? Well, communication is very logical. We see it a lot with leaders and in business organizations. How do you communicate to someone? How do you literally get your message across? But when it comes to charisma, there's a much more emotional side that they're trying to tap into. And just by using some of these words here, you can tell that he's really trying to make this a really emotional speech. He's talking about, calling people friends rather than like the voters or you people. Makes it feel nice, warm, cozy, really kind of build up that familiarity that we're in it together. We're friends. You would help a friend out, and you can help me by voting for me. So really interesting form of rhetoric that he's using there. I also think that he says when we have the victory. So what Donald Trump is really good at is painting this really beautiful picture of the future, of what this prosperous world looks like with him in charge. And I think as leaders and people who use charisma, they really overlook that. For example, if you have a deadline and you're wanting your staff to really sort of dig deep and really hit this deadline hard, what a lot of people do is they say, we need to work hard, we need to get this done. It's really, all this sort of really kind of communicates this hard work, which even if it's true, is that really motivating? Is it really inspiring? How we're actually changing it and saying, what does life look like after the deadline? Will you have more free time? Will you be working on projects you actually enjoy? Will you be able to leave work early, get more rewards, get further X, Y, and Z? And actually, that's much more of a better motivator, much more charismatic, and you'll have greater influence than just saying we need to hit this deadline. So Donald Trump's really good at this, and he's really trying to, once again, get that really emotional side, really hammer it home.
So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States.
I accept your narration of the United States.
Thank you. So many people have asked me what happened.
Okay, so right away, what he's going to start doing here is he's going to start telling a story. Donald Trump is actually quite a good storyteller, and that kind of plays into his charisma. He's always talking about, when I was with a friend or when I was having this business meeting, and kind of goes into his point via a story rather than relying on facts, figures, or logic. Because storytelling is really emotional, it's really powerful to create connections. And that's ultimately what he's trying to do. He's trying to connect with the American voter. He's trying to really make them feel cozy, warm, comforted, because that's probably what they're wanting in this period of time. And so that then makes the audience feel like he's the right man for the job, even if you believe he's not. So let's see what his story's about.
Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened. And you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell.
It's really, really getting really emotional descriptions here. It's too painful to tell. You can tell. I mean, he's going to tell it anyway. He doesn't, he doesn't look particularly in pain telling it, but he's trying to really pull on these heartstrings.
The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not.
So I just saw that there, that sort of really small gesture. So Donald Trump is really good with hand gestures, but he's used these open arms there, like, I would not be here tonight, like here with all of you. Um, you can see through this, he's kind of used small, subtle body language gestures. He's moving from one side to the other. He's actually also very good at keeping his body kind of open, as if it's inviting you to come in. I've got nothing to hide. So really open, positive body language. Body language is really important because it helps build trust. And that's ultimately what he's going to try and do. Is, you need to trust me. You need to trust what I'm saying is true and accurate. You can do that with saying it with confidence and conviction, but body language also plays a huge part in this as well. So let's keep watching. I'm enjoying this.
Not be together. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey, comparator, unbelievable person, everybody tells me.
Unbelievable person.
Selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right.
See, he's really building up this description of this like patriotic person who has unfortunately lost their life, saving him, and once again, really painting that picture. He's not just saying this person saved my life and then moving on. He's really trying to make it really visual about this person, leaping over, sacrificing themselves, putting it on top. And he might try and turn this into a way of like, don't let this person die in vain, because that would be really powerful. Let this man have a legacy. He saved my life, and I went on to become the president of the United States.
Right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was.
Audience really getting into that, applauding. And there's that body language. 1, 2, really pointing. Pointing's usually quite rude. Usually pointing's quite rude in most cultures. If I was to say, you need to go and do this, or you can do this, it can sometimes be quite, rude and aggressive. However, in this circumstance that Trump's using it, it feels quite powerful. It feels like they are there, and he's going to walk over to something. Oh, wow. Hug. Big hug. Okay, so he's working over to the sort of memorial over there. Yeah, that big hug there. Wow, he opened his arms. It's almost as if he was going to embrace the person there, but actually there's no one there, which once again, he's not actually said anything, but he's communicating to us. What is he communicating? He's communicating, affection, love, appreciation, and that kind of coupled with, giving this a speech, and he's going to be trying to tie it into his presidential campaign. Let's see. Let's keep looking. I'm enjoying this. Okay. We kissed him, right? Once again, lots of hand touching, shoulder touching. He's treating it as almost if it's a real person there, which, he's really trying to humanize this, almost like this spiritual, this person is here with us. I'm almost speaking to them. But ultimately, he's doing this for show for the audience. He's trying to use these techniques to make the audience feel more connected to him. If they're more connected to him, he'll have more influence and inspire more people to vote for him.
What this administration, the damage that this administration has done, and I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to
Fire him! Fire him! So that's a really powerful use of what we call rhetoric. So rhetoric is broken down into really three elements: credibility, logic, and emotion. Throughout all this, he's using lots of emotion language, storytelling, body language. When you start to, he's basically said there, like, if we take 10 of the worst presidents, put them all together, they are still not as bad as Joe Biden, which is very powerful. Because if you think of it, what's the 10 worst presidents done? Have they created atrocities? Have they started wars? Have they done horrific things? 10 of the worst ones, and we put them all together? That's huge. And it's still not worse than what Joe Biden's done. Painting a really emotional picture. But what I would also say is this: when you're wanting to influence and persuade someone, you want to have credibility. Some people naturally have credibility built into themselves. For example, a doctor. A doctor who's telling you how you should get better built in credibility because they have the status of being a doctor. Donald Trump doesn't really have, in this case, any credibility, even though he does sometimes use it in the past. I have seen him say, I've done the best deals. I've done the best deals. Or when I was president, I did this. These are things that are giving him credibility. What he's doing here is he is discrediting Joe Biden, which in turn makes him look more credible. Because he's not saying he's as bad as that. He's like saying, these are so bad, you have to vote for me. Making him look more credible.
use the name anymore, just one time. This administration can't come close to solving the problems. We're dealing with very tough, very fierce people. They're fierce people. And we don't have fierce people. We have people that are a lot less than fierce, except when it comes to cheating on elections and
I was wondering how long it would take for him to mention cheating on elections.
a couple of other things. Then they're fierce. And we're really ready to make.
He had a bit of a zinger there, using a little bit of humor there. He knows his audience very well. He knows his style very well, and he's really using it to his advantage. Once again, these are psychological techniques. There are soft skills that he's using to improve and show his charisma to have a greater influence.
Make changes like nobody had seen before. And remember, USMCA, I got rid of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made. And
says who? Worst trade deal ever made. Who says who? Once again, he's trying to build credibility here. That's what he's trying to do.
Replace it with USMCA, which is, they say, the best trade deal ever made.
Who says that? Who says it's the best trade deal ever made? So as leaders, sometimes we actually skip over credibility. Or sometimes in job interviews and things like that. And if you're wanting to really being able to persuade people more, a lot of people fall into the trap of just using logic and reason and miss out on credibility and emotion. He's really hitting the sort of trifecta here.
Actually, probably the best trade deal was the deal I made with China, where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. They were buying nothing. They buy.
So yeah, once again, a really nice rhetoric technique, sort of a comparison there. 0 to nothing. This is the impact he's had. And it's a really small soundbite. Once again, logic. Who doesn't want 50 billion? Of course. Well, if you had zero and then we've got 50 billion, isn't that super obvious? So he's really hitting on all these different techniques, credibility, logic, emotion.
$50 billion worth. They had to, but I don't even talk about it because of COVID. I don't even mention it, frankly, because of what happened with
I never mention it, but here's me mentioning it.
the China virus.
It was only a matter of time before he mentioned it.
At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's turned out to be very popular, actually. Here it's very popular in this building and all those hotels that I saw that are so nice. I'm staying in a nice one. It's called no tax on tips. No tax on tips.
Another persuasion technique he's used there, no tax on tips. It kind of has this really rhythmic words to it, almost like a little bit of a song. The TTs, use of yeah, using the two T's there, which makes you use that when you want something to be remembered. He wants you to remember, I'm bringing in this policy, which is no tax on tips, no tax on tips. Once again, very easy to remember. An audience member can go away and say, why should you vote on Donald Trump? And it's like, well, he has the no tax on tips. Once again, really rhythmic, really easy to remember. And that's really what he's wanting to do. He's planting these seeds in your mind, but he's using these techniques to really try to do that. You could call it something else. You could call it the policy on waiter service charges. Something really boring. It would not be as good a zinger as no tax on tips.
No tax on tips.
And he keeps repeating it. No tax on tips, no tax on tips, no tax on tips. He wants you to remember, he's truly trying to emphasize this.
Together we will save this country. We will restore the republic, and we will usher in the rich and wonderful tomorrows that our people so truly deserve.
Once again, he's really good at painting this really prosperous future. And that's really important when it comes to charisma, because, for example, here in the UK, a political party might use the motto like, we need to get to work. And that might be really true. It might be really true, but it's painful. Times are tough, things are hard. Getting down to work, or we need to work, sounds sore. It sounds difficult. But what he's doing, he's presenting this really beautiful tomorrow. And that's what we want. We don't want it's hard work.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer.
And he's now listing off all the amazing things that tomorrow will be. We'll be happier, we'll be freer, we'll be greater, stronger, brilliant. That's what people want to hear. That's what we're looking for. As opposed to him saying something really logical like, we're going to get the best trade deals, we're going to have cuts, we're going to, like, all these policy things which are important to the nuts and bolts of running a country. But once again, in terms of influencing and persuade people, what do people want to hear? What do people need? What do get people, what are their triggers that they want to hear? These are things that he's all using to increase his influence and in turn have better charisma.
Greater and more united than ever before. And quite simply put, we will very quickly make America great again. Thank you very much.
That has got to go down as one of the greatest slogans in history. Make America great again. Who doesn't want that? That sounds so tantalizing, so enjoyable. Like that. We all want that. We all want to make our countries great. We all want to be in this part of this like utopian world. And he's just very good at painting that picture there. So there you have it. I would say Donald Trump has used all the charisma tricks that he has in his locker, and he's doing it very well. It'll be really interesting to see how the campaign finishes and whether Donald Trump is successful in becoming president again. I would love to hear from you. What do you think of Donald Trump and his charisma? Do you disagree that he has zero charisma, or do you think he's using his charisma to help get him the President of the United States job? I'd love to hear from you. My name is Sebastian, and this is The Art of Charisma.